Hi my friends, I'm Kaale. Welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be painting these vibrant, colorful poppies and just do it several different ways but keeping the colors the same. But this time I thought it would be fun just to try to spice it up a little and add some vibrant colors that would be mixing and matching. So come on, let's go. I'm really excited to paint this with you today. I've got my Saunders Waterford 100% cotton paper here today, what I'm using. I've got my Paul Rubens professional paint set, and then I've got my Princeton Heritage brushes. I have a number 2, 8, and 16. We'll see which ones we use today. I've got my water. I'm gonna spray down my palette, and I will link the supplies down below in the description if you're interested in checking those out. But I always say, use what you have. Paint with what you have available, what makes you feel comfortable, what your budget allows, all the things. And so we're gonna go ahead and dip into water, and we're gonna start with a lovely yellow center for our peonies. So I'm gonna grab some of this really beautiful paint. This is not a cadmium. It is actually a bit oranger than that. And this is my cadmium right here. So it's a really nice bright color. We're gonna start by adding a peony right here, and then we're gonna add several on our paper and just kind of feel it out just to see how we want to place things. So this type of peony is called Clair de Lune, and Claire, I'm not even gonna try to say it correctly. I don't speak French, my husband does, but I don't, so there you go. And it has a really large center. So my tendency is to probably want to go smaller than I need to, because I'm not sure why, but so I'm gonna try to make it the way it's meant to be. I do have a reference photo, but I'm just changing some things up here. So I'm doing some little lines. I'm gonna hold the brush very loosely, and I have a very nice pointed brush, and so I can get some really great marks, even though my brush is an 8, which is not a thin brush, and I can get some really great marks on my paper. Thin ones and thick ones, depending if I do lighter pressure or more heavy pressure. All right, so it's kind of rounded, and it's a little bit flipped this way, so it's not straight on. So you're gonna see these petals are gonna be a little bit shorter, and then maybe these will look a little bit longer, just based on the fact that it's flipped a little bit. So I'm going to do some more over here. I'm going to do another one here. Now this one is gonna have, the way that it's situated, you're not gonna see much just on the top of it. So I'm just gonna put a few little, this is the stamen, little stamen parts here, and we'll add in our petals as we see fit. Just these nice little lines, relaxing your body as you paint, reminding yourself, what is this? This is supposed to be fun, right? So hopefully you're having so much fun as we're starting to paint here. So I'm going to do another one that is kind of a side facing. We're going to see some of that center, but then we're gonna have a lot of it kind of covered up with our petals. So just adding those in, really bright yellow. I love this. So I'm so glad you guys are here painting with me today. Maybe you're not painting actually, maybe you're just observing, totally fine. Glad to have you here anyway. Maybe you're thinking, I want to paint this later on, fun little project after work, whatever it is. Now we're going to do a very large center over here, and we're going to do the same technique, but we're going to see a little bit more water would be good. I have a paper towel to dab my brush. If there's just too much liquid on my brush, I don't want to flood my paper with too much paint, with too much liquid, and we're just gonna go all the way around with this one, a nice round ball. And I'm adding in all these little sketchy marks. Such a gorgeous center. So these have much larger centers than the typical peony that I've observed, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. So we will see if we can try to do them justice with our painting today. Okay, so I've got 4 going on now. I might add in some more some others later, depending on how I'm feeling. And I'm feeling colorful today. So, and I'm gonna stick with this number 8 round. I think it's working for me. So we're gonna start with our pink. I wanna go light. And we're gonna try to paint without disturbing the center, which is kind of challenging to do. So we're just going to start adding in some of those petal shapes. You can even dip your brush, squeegee it, get a little bit lighter, and start adding some around right here and over here as well. And you know, maybe we'll see a little bit of petal over there, maybe not. So just dipping in, getting some more, adding in a little bit more of a petal on this side, and then over here too. So I'm just quickly putting on this paint, not worrying too much about, you know, the composition or the details, right? Because it's just that first wash and we're just getting some color down. And so we just don't want to, you know, belabor it too much. And just to create a little boundary here between this petal and this one here, I'm going to actually lift off some of the paint right here. And then clean my brush, dab it, lift off some paint. Now we've created a boundary between this petal and this one here. Doesn't look like the same. This one we can also do as well. Just lifting some of that color, just for now. And I think I want to add just a little bit more of these petal marks here. You can kind of see some of those petals on the other side, you know? Just a little bit of that happening. And just kind of leave it for now. We'll come back to it. And now let's go ahead and do the rest of our peonies. So I would like to do, I'm gonna do purple. Have I seen a purple peony? Possibly, possibly not. Do I paint from reality? I don't. So we're just gonna go for it. We're gonna paint our peony petals here. Just let me know in comments, have you seen purple peonies before? I'm curious. Or what's your favorite color of peony? So we're just adding in the brush strokes and kind of swooping, bringing it around. And maybe there's another layer of brush stroke, another layer of petal right there. Just adding those in quite lightly. And then another one that's gonna swoop in over here. Swooping, I like that. Maybe. Another guy over here, running out of paint. Grab some more. And it's going to start touching on that, the one that's already there. So what I can do is the same thing we did before, to start lifting some color on this one. And then maybe you'll see a little bit of a boundary. We're just kind of playing around and seeing what looks okay. Maybe that's just a large petal, who knows? All right, adding in a few more over on this side, just to even it out. And just being really, you know, carefree about where we're laying things down, but also very aware that we are just going to play around with this color and try not to bump into our yellows too much as well. Okay, so now I wanted to do, I know it's gonna seem kind of silly, it's gonna change up the plan a little bit. I wanted to do a yellow one on here, which means it's going to match the center, which means we're just gonna change the color of the center later. It's no worries, okay? So I'm just following the outline here and adding in the little petals as I'm kind of seeing them in my reference, and very lightly have some half petals here. You can't always see the entire petal because of the angle. So I'll give that a shot there. And a little bit more over here, sticking out. Okay, and then the last one, it's a pretty large guy. I'm kind of mixing in some of that purple in with the pink, just to have a little bit of a variation in what we're putting down here. So large petal, squeegeeing off my brush, a little bit of a different variation of that color, and some right here. It's okay if it bleeds together with the yellow. That might actually be really pretty, I think. Okay. And as we're painting this, I'm curious about, talking about this subject of boundaries. And, I love to talk mental health around here. This idea that, setting boundaries with people, and how does that work? When do we do that? Why do we do it? And a boundary is essentially, if you think about a house, you've got a fence in between two houses, and, there's the boundary there where my property ends and yours begins, right? And so in that same space, when we are creating boundaries with people, we're letting them know, hey, this is my space. This is my level of safety here, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. And you can't cross this. This is where you can cross and this is where you cannot. And just being straightforward. Just being straightforward about what you expect and what you don't expect, things like that. Let's start putting in our stems. So I'm just lightly holding this. I like to hold it pretty far back so that I can actually give a chance for my hand to shake a little. I know that probably sounds strange. I'm not a big fan of a stick straight stem. I like it to be a little wonky. I like it to have some movement. And if I hold the brush in a way that gives me less control, then I get that nice wonky stem. And I like that a lot. So we're putting one here. And I'm just kind of doing sketchy lines and letting the brush just move and do its thing, okay? They're semi-thick stems. And as I'm putting these in, I'm probably gonna figure out the spaces where I wanna start adding in some buds. So I do want to add maybe a couple right here because I want to have some stems come up to just kind of draw out the composition a little bit more to the top right. And so the buds are really round. And so I'm just kind of, playing with that. And then maybe another one right here. Okay, just really round buds, getting those in place. It can be a little wonky, that's okay. This guy right there, and just kind of, he's attached there, he's attached. And then maybe we'll do just a few, or just one, maybe just one right here. Okay, a nice little round one. Okay, let's do two. Sometimes you just go for it and you're not sure what you want, and then you kind of work it out and you sort of figure it out as you are painting. All right, I want to add some leaves in. So our leaves are going to be pretty simple. Just kind of, and I'm just kind of squiggling my brush pretty thin compared to some options that you could have for leaves. And we're just going to draw that out this way as well. My cat is trying to get involved in the conversation, so that's fun. She wants to be where the people are, just like Ariel, the Disney princess. So, and Peaches is definitely kind of like a princess. I think she subscribes to that. I don't know if we've actually kind of subscribed or named her that at all, but that's just what we're dealing with here. So you know how princesses can be sometimes. There's a lot happening there. Alrighty, so I'm just going ahead and continuing to add in our leaves, and I want to fill this out in a really nice full way. I might want to add more blooms still. I'm thinking about it. It's in my head. I want to add another leaf here, a little bit more thin. I said thin. I like really jaggedy leaves. I like that, brush strokes, the brush strokes that look kind of sketchy, maybe adding in just a little bit of squiggles here and there, and maybe just a little bit of green as well, just to kind of emulate where that greenery has, folded down or is about to fold down, and then the bud will open and you'll see more color. So there we go. We can even do some leaves right here. Doesn't have to be attached to a stem necessarily. Sketchy lines, and I just think those are fun. Okay, all right, so we're continuing to add our leaves. How is your combination coming along, your composition? And we're just gonna move some things a little bit. We're gonna angle our paper so that we can just have a better time of all this. Okay, I'm just really being very loose about it. I want this to be a little bit bigger. Okay, and I'm really enjoying the fact that I can angle my paper if I want to, or I can keep it the same way. Either way, whatever your skill level is, whatever your comfort is, you do what makes you happy. So continue to talk on boundaries. I think these are very important to have, very healthy to have, especially, for example, if you have anyone in your life that has harmed you, that has proven themselves to be untrustworthy. We're just pressing down, really, just seeing what marks the brush makes here. And, you know, they continue to disappoint you. They continue to hurt you. You continue to trust. And, you know, your trust is not proven to be effective in changing any behavior that they're doing. It's not, you know, influencing them in any way. They're not changing what they're doing. And boundaries is simply saying, like I said, you know, emotionally and physically, this is what you cannot do anymore. And sometimes we have to say those boundaries several times over and over before people get the picture. And sometimes people never get the picture. And that's where we have to make some hard choices about, you know, letting people into our life, or sometimes we have to block people from our lives. And, you know, nowadays with social media and with texting and our phone situations, you can quite literally block people easily. But sometimes it's just limiting our exposure to them, or just choosing not to be around those people. So something to think about, guys. And boundaries are hard. They absolutely are hard. All right. If you are liking this video, guys, please give it a like. Let people know that you are enjoying this tutorial. And, you know, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We have so much fun on here. I feel like we do. I always have a good time. I'm gonna add a little bit of green here too, because I don't know, I just felt like it. So we've got our blooms here. I'm trying to think of, you know, do I want to add some more? I kind of feel like no at this point. I've got the buds in there, which are giving us a nice spray, but I feel like I want to add some more greenery on this side. So I'm gonna go for that. I'm grabbing my sap green once again, another one here. Right there, and then even at this point, I can just do a little bit more. I think I can still add one at the base of that. That's fine. I don't see a problem with that. And then maybe a little bit more over there, just kind of in between, just in between things. So, and what you're looking for here is kind of that full composition, you know, giving some really nice life and greenery to everything you've put down. So as we have our leaves drying and doing their thing, we can start going in and making some more marks on our petals and our flowers. And I want to dip into this lovely orangey yellow color. I don't know the name of it. Honestly, I'm not tracking names really. I know what they do. I know kind of what they mixed well with, what they mix well with. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. And plus, everyone is using different colors, and I don't want anyone to feel like if they don't have that specific color, they're needing to buy it or search for it. I want you guys to use what you have. I always say that. And I think I might add in maybe some darker orange when that's dry. We'll see. So now we're going with our purple flower. I've got this lovely saturated purple already on my palette. We're gonna start. I'm trying not to dip. I love to paint and put the palm of my hand down. That gives me more control. But because things are wet, I really can't trust that. So we're gonna dab our brush. So we're just going to start adding in some little marks here to start creating some of those shadows and the texture of our peony. Now the peony is such a gorgeous, gorgeous flower. Absolutely love peonies. There's so many petals, and I think it gets really confusing because, you know, first of all, I'd love to count them. How many do they actually have, you know? But trying to emulate that can be really hard, and I'm really liking kind of just adding in some marks, some sketchy lines, letting the center really showcase that this is a peony. And I feel like, you know, what really makes a flower recognizable? Because petals can often be so much the same, but if you're taking a look at those centers, that's what sets them apart. And of course their leaves, the shapes of their leaves, that kind of thing as well. All right, so we're just putting in these petal marks, and I'm remembering, you know, where were the petals placed so that we can try to, you know, kind of emulate that here. So we're not confused, like these are going this way, these are going this way, and then these are swooshing downward. So I'm gonna do my marks swooshing downward now. And just a few little guys here and over here as well. And if you want to go outside of the lines, you know, by all means, be my guest. You can do that. It's your painting. Not a problem. I'm gonna add in some orange. Now, this is a really bright orange color. I'm loving that. Love it. For our yellow color, our yellow flower, I'm going to add in some marks here for this guy. And I am following the contour of the flower too. So, you know, we can make sure that we know the direction that it's going, but also if it's curving, you know, we're making sure to keep that involved in the painting as well. Some swooping down petals. And, you know, if you don't want to do these kind of marks, you don't have to. It's kind of the style that I'm going for, but, you know, you could just do solid colors if you wanted to. That would be totally fine. And that would be another different look, different way to do it. And then for this guy, I was mixing together some purple and some pink. So that's kind of fun, kind of a fluorescent color. So I'll just do that, use that now. I'm gonna dab my brush. There's a lot of paint on there, a little bit more. And, you know, I like to press down and do some thick lines and some thin lines with light pressure, and just kind of put those on pretty fast because otherwise I overthink that whole process. So I'm going to even do a really thick one right here, just a little bit different than the rest. And my brush is starting to run out of paint, which is giving me a really beautiful dry brush effect, which I love. So you can use that as well for texture on your painting. That can be really fun, a fun way to do it. Okay, going back to our purple one up at the top, I'm just ready to put my palm on this paper. It's getting drier, so I trust it a little bit more. And I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker here. I'm curious how you feel about your painting, and if you're loving it, you know, what is it that you like about it? And I'm curious if you have any thoughts about how this experience is going for you. Definitely let me know below. I'd love to hear it. And what is something that you like about your painting? Just check in with yourself. If you're not loving how it's turning out, maybe there's something in the composition that you do love. You know, maybe you like the colors or the way that you placed things. Let's do some red. Or maybe, you know, the amount of leaves that you put on was just a good amount. You know, just being able to find something. We got to practice that positivity so we can reward ourselves, so we can motivate ourselves to want to continue to paint the next time. If we are not motivated, we're not going to pick up that paintbrush again. We're going to be discouraged. We're going to have a lot of frustration, and maybe, you know, might shy away from trying new mediums as well. So encouraging yourself and honing in on what you do see is going well is really important. So I'm still continuing to do these marks. I'm going over and I'm just adding some yellow to some of these as well, just a little bit. The same yellow? Yeah, the same yellow that I used for the centers. Just thought it'd be kind of fun, a little different. Now, the goal for me is not to add up, you know, use all the space everywhere I want to keep that underpainting there, but I'm just trying to create a lot of variety. This one to me is feeling a bit more on the boring side. And so I want to add in another layer, another color. This is kind of this brick mud brown color. Just a little bit of marks here. It's a little bit similar, a little bit different. You can do it over the top of what you already painted, or just some other marks, additional marks, kind of cover over what you've done already maybe. Just kind of, you know, keep it interesting. Just a little bit there. And sometimes I start to overdo it a little bit. Sometimes you need to know, when is it time to stop? You know, usually your brain starts to kind of give you a hint that you need to stop with something and move on. All right, more concentrated paint here. This really bright color, it's not quite sap green. I want to darken it up a little bit. So we're gonna let's add in some brown. And this will be that concentrated, more concentrated color that goes over the leaves. And this time, I think I might want to do some lines. Usually I'm just doing these little smudgy marks, but I think today lines would be fun. And sometimes you just want to leave them how they are. Look, I'm just doing really quick kind of sketchy lines. And you know, some of the leaves I might leave without lines, and some of them I might not put the little lines on, you know, all the sides, the veins. There we go. So I hope that the idea of boundaries with people is hitting home for you, and as we start to darken up some of these other green parts, just think about if someone comes to mind, someone that is kind of toxic in your life, or you've had, you know, struggles with. It's something to think about if that's a person that you need to figure out a way to limit exposure or the way that they speak to you. Sometimes it means having a conversation with them. Sometimes it means limiting your phone contact with them. Maybe you don't reach out as often because you've been hurt so many times. So it's a valid thing to consider and think about, but believe me, it's challenging. It's not going to be easy, but it can produce some really good results if it's something that you need to do that would create a more healthy you and a more healthy environment, especially for your home. All right, a little bit of a line there. Okay, so I did lines on most of them and just a little bit of definition, darkening up my stems everywhere. Like I said, I love those sketchy marks, you know? I just like to go lightly, and you know, I even like to just do a little bit of these lines and kind of maybe bring some of that greenery around the leaf like that, holding my brush so loosely too, as you can see. All right, so this is where you start to step back and say, okay, what do I like about my painting? Does it feel like it is balanced enough? I feel like I'm pretty okay with the amount of greenery for the most part. I do want to add just a little bit right here. Just right here, I felt like there was a lot of white space. And so that's what I'm talking about. Just, you know, kind of taking a step back, maybe taking a photo of your painting and then staring at it. You know, it's kind of like staring at it with different eyes in a way. And sometimes you can end up seeing things that you didn't see when you were just staring at it in real life, and then you took a photo and you take a look and you see some things you'd like to change. All right, I do want to darken up some of these guys. Now I'm going to take my number 2 brush. I want some thin lines. I'd like some brown. We can put brown in our peony, right? Can't we do that? We're doing it. Especially this one, because he's kind of matching his stamen here. So just a little bit, a little extra. And we'll do that for the rest of these. Just a little bit, and it's going to give us some dimension in our painting. I'm trying to go really thin. If you go thick though, dark, that's okay. I love this brush. It gives such great details, more than what I can get with the point on my number 8. At least for me, I feel It gives me more confidence that I can get the thinner lines that I need when I need them, like right now. All right, and I'm just gonna hover just in case. So we're just going to go around here, kind of in that circular fashion, a little bit of short lines here. I'm not doing too much. All right, and adding that in there. So I feel like I want to add a third layer, just a little bit more of that darker paint. And this is where I do those dark colors. I just dip right in with a wet paintbrush, dip right into that well, and I can just really grab a lot of that nice thick paint. And we can just paint on the side of the brush. We can paint with the tip of the brush. Get a little bit more water because it's not moving much for me. And just adding on top of what I did, you know, some little thinner marks and maybe some thick ones too. We don't have to limit ourselves, okay? Don't have to limit ourselves. We're just kind of keeping these ladies really nice and fun and loose. There we go. I hope that you are loving your painting right now and that you're enjoying this whole process. And I hope that, you know, you are finding time to enjoy the good things in life and what brings you peace, what brings you joy. And sometimes setting boundaries, going back to it, means telling your family, I need to take some time for me. I'm going to spend an hour or half an hour, whatever you can afford or want to afford, painting, and you know, we'll get dinner on the table after I'm done or whatever, and just having that space for you if it's important to you. We're gonna do some splatter, a lot of water here, just soaking up that water, that paint on my brush, and then we're going to just tap and make those splatter marks. This is the magical part of flowers, people. Lovely pollen just floating in the air is what I imagine is happening here. And I think we are done. Well, now we have painted these vibrant, beautiful poppies. I hope you enjoyed doing this with me today. And I hope you can think of someone in your life where maybe you need to put your foot down at times, maybe if you're ready, and let them know how far they can go into your life and where they need to step back. It's important to have those healthy boundaries for you. And I hope you consider this as you enjoy your brand new painting that you just created with me today. I'll see you guys soon on the next video.